Hello, 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 hello everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. J'espère que tout le monde va bien. Bienvenue sur Ayeeyo Podcast pour les personnes pour qui c'est la première fois. This episode will be in English. The last episode was in French. This episode will be in English. You know the drill. English, French, English, French. We do multilingual. We vibe in that way. Today, the way I am excited, the way I am excited, people, the way I am excited, because I have to say every time on Ayeeyo Podcast that I have a guest, I think it's the episodes that it brings me the most joy. Before I introduce this beautiful person, this amazing person, let me just say thank you to all the people who have been donating, dollars. We need dollars. The equipment that you're seeing right now, the time, I'm a Black person. There's many Black people that are coming here on this platform, and I do offer money for their time and energy and perspectives. And many of them, they tell me, either we don't want your money, please inject that money in your podcast, or they accept the money for, sharing their time and perspectives. And so there's financial cost to this beautiful work that we're doing. And I just want to thank the people who are supporting Ayeeyo Podcast that has been there since October 2022. In October 2023, we will be celebrating 1 year together. 1 year already. 1 year. I'm super, super grateful, super excited. And this is, as I've said before on other episodes, it's a learning process for me, for many people that are supporting. And so thank you so much. Thank you so much. So today I have a person. I will say a few words. I will say a few words regarding this person that I really appreciate. We'll talk about how we met, but this person, it's always better when the guest, they get to introduce themselves. I think people know themselves and they can introduce themselves, but I'm just going to say a few words. This is a beautiful person, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful person that created a very, very important organization here in unceded land, Montreal, unceded land, Quebec, unceded land, Canada. The name of the organization is Black Healing Center, and the Black Healing Center does all of the beautiful things, all of the fine things, all of the things that we Black people need. And Sam, I call them Sam, Samanta. I call them Sam. Is here to have a conversation with us, to talk about their work, their the team they work with, the beautiful, beautiful things that they do within our communities. Now, first, let's start with how you feeling, Sam? How you feeling?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here and be in conversation with you. How am I feeling? Excited. That was a really good hype up. I'm happy to be here with you. Yeah.
Yes, I'm grateful that you're here. Now, because we have to ask. We all know that you went to see Beyonce.
Yes.
We all know.
Yes, I'm a beehive.
And
all day, every day. And it was life-changing. It was transformative. It was going to church. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. I'm still living in that place right now.
Was it everything you expected it to
everything
be?
And more. Everything and more. She delivers 10 on 10s on 10s.
We did not expect less. Mm-mm. We did not expect less.
Never.
At all. At the end, enough about Beyonce now. I appreciate Beyonce. I appreciate.
Do not.
No, I do. Sociologically, I for the people who don't know, I'm a sociologist. I can only appreciate Beyonce for the joy that she brings. I told you that, Sam.
I do know this about you, Adil. We've had at least us and our other friend Kristen, we've had at least a 3-hour conversation about Beyonce, and I feel like we could have more conversations about Beyonce. Yeah,
of course. Beyonce, listen, I've learned through the fans and the Beehive how to appreciate Beyonce. I used to, a few years ago, be like, Beyonce, nah, man, nah. But exchanging with the people that are completely obsessed with Beyonce, the people who studied, her
Yes.
journey, I actually ended up having much compassion, empathy, and understanding for her journey. But it will always be that Beyonce, during my teenage years, was wearing blue eye contacts and blonde wigs. That was the representation she gave me.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. There's that thing called growth with everybody in this life that we live. The grace that we give everybody, the love and the joy. And I think we're giving her that. And we did the Lord's work. So you're welcome, world. If you haven't gone to see Beyonce, go do it. It's worth every single penny. Yeah.
We're all proud of Beyonce.
So proud.
Yeah, we're all proud. And can we close the chapter?
Yes, for now.
Okay.
For now.
So, Beyonce, thank you.
Thank you, Beyonce. If you hear this, I love you. And all I want to do in my next life is there was a man on stage who was handling her like water to drink as she was walking the stage. And that is my dream job from now on. I want to be the man who hands Beyonce water or just wipes her sweat, something around those lines.
Well, I don't think I can add to that. I think that expresses the love that Sam has for Beyonce, and I think we can close that. Can we?
Absolutely.
We thank you, Beyonce. We thank you. So, Sam, how did we meet?
How did we meet? We met at a place. We met at Tempoka. We met at Tempoka about a year ago now. I was working there. You were also working there, and it just felt like our souls connected.
Yeah, Sam is pretty much what I would describe the cousin that was never given to me by life. Like when I met this human, I was like, why do they feel so familiar? Mm-hmm. Why are they like, why? And then she became annoying, like any cousin, any younger cousin. Mm-hmm. that will annoy you. Mm-hmm. And obviously the conversation about Beyonce brought us closer, and closer. Then and maybe not closer. But Sam to me is energy of cousin that was never given to me.
Oh, ditto.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And Sam is also, I don't think it's a coincidence. Like we met in a space that had much to do with wellness and healing and mental health. And I know that I was at Tempoka to deliver a bunch of things for the youth, and Sam was doing amazing work there for Black healing. And I saw that you were with your team mobilizing Black people, Black queer people, beautiful people around matters and projects that you really cared about and you truly still care about. And my question for you is like, Black Healing Center, you're the founder of Black Healing Center. And I find, especially as a person that has created a bunch of things, created a bunch of spaces, I always wonder when you speak to founders, like people who decided one day, like, what happened? Like you woke up and you were like, hey, I want to create an organization. Like, what was the flow?
I think there was a bit of that. I say that I created this out of a need for me. I think I'm a curator of spaces, and those spaces that I curate are first and foremost for me, or spaces that I've wanted for me to exist. And so the Black Healing Center was part of that. From experiencing like going to look for therapists like 6-7 years ago in Montreal, and like back then it was like finding a Black therapist was like almost non-existent. And so I always say that I saw my first like white therapist, and I remember always like leaving, and like usually there's like moments in therapy, if you've been in therapy for a long time, where you leave and you don't feel that great, but this one was very specific. Where it was like, okay, I'll never do this again. Maybe my mama was right, and this is a white people thing. But then later on, shout out to the Lavender Collective, I was able to find like a Black therapist when they still had like a Tumblr page. And I always say she like saved my life because she gave me space, gave me care and safety that I had never experienced before. And when I started working in community work, I think I was working majority, mostly with like Black organizations, and a lot of them, like mental health, like 5 years ago was not a thing that we talked about a lot. It was like maybe we'll have one workshop here, one workshop there where we talk about mental health, but nothing else. And I was like, well, I've been doing this for a few years and I'm still like very much like not understanding where I'm at in terms of my own mental health. And so I'm like, we need somewhere where mental health is actually the center, and the thing that folks are trying to do, like all these other things that are work, home, like these are important things in our lives, but we also need to center our own healing, especially as Afro-diasporic people who have gone and still are going through a lot of things in this world and navigating different systems. So yeah, I think it was during that. And then also when 2020 hit, it was like experiencing so much isolation and loneliness. And I think, I mean, my own mental health was in a pit. And I was like, it'll be really lovely to have a space where I could just go to and meet other Black folks. We could just talk and make meaningful connections. And there wasn't that. So I started talking to people. I was like, what do you think if this thing existed? And so just talking to my friends first, and most of them, oh my God, that's such a good idea. And then talking to strangers, and strangers were like, yeah, that's a good idea. So I just needed affirmation and validation around the idea. And after that, then we did like a research project, talking to different healers in the community with the docuseries called My Black Mental Health. Talking to folks here in Montreal about their own mental health journeys and what a space like this could mean to them. And then from there, we started creating programs. But that's us.
That's really, really dope stuff. And now in terms of timing, like when did you create Black Healing Center?
We started in the spring of 2021. Oh my God, time. Like I feel like everything in the pandemic is just together. Yeah.
So spring of 2021, because in my mind, it seems like it's been so long.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 2021. So it's pretty recent.
Yeah.
And you know, Sam, one thing I see as I'm working on many projects, and mental health is becoming, and I think for the past decade, you know, people want to be talking about mental health. The government is pushing and distributing funds to address mental health. And I have psychologists around me, psychotherapists around me, many people who are in the mental health world. And they are very critical about the way that, you know, during the last decade, there has been a big focus on mental health, and maybe not in a way that they found fit. As a Black organization, really focusing and zooming in on mental health, I'm curious to know, like, what do you think about that focus on mental health that has been growing and growing during the past decade? And how do you feel or understand that Black people are being centered in, or not, in that growing interest for mental health?
I think I will speak for me. This might not apply to like other orgs or the places that are not here in Jojage, Montreal. I think there's an upside and a downside, like everything. I think the upside is that the more that we talk about mental health, wellness in general, especially for Black communities, the more we destigmatize what that looks like. And so more folks are actually able to reach out, especially when it starts from like a systemic level. Like schools are addressing mental health, schools are providing therapists, even though most of them are also exhausted and burnt out and aren't actually as helpful. And then also being able to, I don't know how much money, because people be talking about this, like there's a lot of money going to organizations around mental health. I'm like, a lot of the Black organizations that I know did not necessarily receive that funding, unless there might be others that I don't know that have received that funding, but a lot haven't received as much funding as as the conference, as like the talk, people say, oh, there's been a lot of money, there's been a lot of money. And I think for me, what I'm seeing is just a lot of mobilization around Black organizations. Like in February, I was at a national Black mental health conference in Toronto. It was organized by this org called Taibu, and they were able to pull a lot of orgs from around Canada that are working towards supporting Black folks in their mental health. And I think that was a really great advancement because we're all able to share knowledge about what we're doing in different communities and also just make connections around the work that we're doing and want to continue doing and collaborations. So this can be something that is national, but also global at the same time. I don't know if I answered your question. But
You did. It's indeed a perception that millions of dollars have been distributed to Black people to address mental health. It is indeed a perception. In reality, we all know that, Black communities are underfunded. Now, at this point, it's all every time it's the same thing, because I've been in the nonprofit world for a while, and there's always like themes that get really popular. And when the themes or subjects get really popular, it doesn't mean that the impact is necessarily there. Exactly. And so we know that, Sam, we all know that because we're navigating the spaces. But at the end, I'm also happy to see that within Black communities, there's more discussions regarding mental health because of organizations like Black Healing Center. That's like, even like on your social media, you have videos of Black people talking about their mental health, navigating depression, what it means to them. And so you're reaching like the root of it, meaning giving the opportunity to Black people to talk about how they're experiencing their mental health, how do they understand care, self-care, collective care. And that's what I find very interesting with Black healing, is that I have seen it, with my own eyes, and I've witnessed it, that Black Healing Center is allowing for Black people to gather online and offline to discuss how they feel, first of all, and to also understand what care means to them and to others and to our, communities. Sam and I, on top of talking about Beyonce, we talked about our understanding of care, self-care, community care. Ooh. And so, but we at the end of the day for this, I think we were really saying the same thing. We were saying the same thing. It's just that, like, maybe you can unpack it, Sam, but at the end, what I was trying to say about the difference, for me at least, between care, self-care, and collective care is that sometimes, in this very capitalist, individualistic society we live in, it seems like self-care has become this thing that is performed on an individual level. And for me, as a person that has done community work for a long time, I've been very triggered by that, like this big promotion of self-care in a certain way, in a marketing way, like, have you done this for yourself today? Have you done that for yourself today? And I'm like, truly, when I think about my Black self and the care that I received and the positive impact, on my mental health, on my body, I think about, other people who have taken care of me at specific times in my life, where like it brought joy to my heart, wellness to my body. And so that, my question to you, Sam,
this is where it gets controversial.
Is like, truly, as the founder of Black Healing Center, no pressure. The thing is, for you, like as an individual, at the end of the day, you're a human being that created this organization. What do you think about that? Because like we like, I see it on Instagram, I see it on social media, that sometimes there's a misunderstanding of care.
Yeah. I think for me, there's two things. I wholeheartedly agree with you with what you said. And as someone who I am Rwandese, I grew up in the community. I was born there, raised there, and moved here when I was a teenager. I think in my circle, in like Black circles, is this like this idea, especially in the healing. So like, return to the African way of being, return to community, all these things. Like we're trying to build communities. We're trying to build communities, and as a queer Black person, I've experienced a lot of harm in community, in said Black communities. So for me, community has not always been a safe place. And so I think we have to have definitions of what community means, because there's no one definition of it, first of all. And then for me, I think my own healing journey had to start with me. I had to learn how to take care of myself so that I could show up fully in the communities that I was able to form. And so I had to seek out that therapy. But also for me, because vulnerability was something that was really hard for me growing up. And so even if I made any friends when I was younger, I feel like it was all very like surface level friendships. It was never like deep, meaningful connection friendships. And so I feel like only after I was able to seek support was I able to actually like reach out a hand to friends and actually be able to have meaningful connections with people where I felt I was seen and heard and supported. And also I could show up with love and not like show up with love me, love me, love me. Like, yes, love me, but I'm going to also learn how to love you back. There's a reciprocity there. And I think that's what's most important in like, I don't know, healthy communities, whatever that means for you. But I think, yeah, for me, those two, self-care and community, go hand in hand, and one can't exist without the other. I think that was what we were talking about when we were having this conversation. Because for me, I think learning how to care for ourselves is so integral to being able to actually show up in community. Because without that, then I don't know how those communities operate. Yeah.
No, I think we are fully in line. You know, there's no glitch here. There's absolutely no glitch. I fully agree because you know, I admire any person that can say that they value community, but also can acknowledge that within these communities, harm happens. And I think it's something that as Black people, we are sometimes, we don't want to say that because we're fighting so many fights, you know? But I think we have to be realistic about if we're looking to humanize, you know, Black people, their human experience, we have to be able to talk about it in a very complex way, sitting in our vulnerability and honoring our emotions.
Yeah, and also I think harm will like exist in any community, you know, like we're humans, we fuck up, we do things, and so that will continue to exist. But it's like, do we have processes in place for when that harm happens? Do we have things in place of understanding, yes, harm happens, and what do we do? Do we recognize that harm has happened, so that we can address that and make sure that folks are being taken care of? Because I don't want to say like harm happens in Black communities, but like harm happens in every community, and in the communities I exist in now, I cause harm, people cause harm to me. So it's just like, we're humans, those things will continue to exist, but it's just like, how are we addressing those, and are we actually seeing and recognizing that we are causing harm? Yeah.
Yes. And I think because I've seen it, you know, within communities, people putting in the real work in repairing, because I think that, you know, we talk about reparations. White people, please give to this podcast, give money to this podcast
today,
because so far it's Black people who have been giving. If you like this podcast, many white people are listening to this podcast. Give money. Okay, so I'm going to close this chapter. I was saying...
I also want to say something that my dear friend, Kathleen Charles, once said, and it stayed with me. They said that harm happens in relationships, so healing also has to happen in relationships. And I think that is part of community. And that is, I think, the beautiful part, like I'm always remembering as well. Yeah.
Yes. And the word reparation means something in terms of the actions that people have to take in order for healing to happen. And I think that at the end, if we want to be able to move together and recognize the humanity of each other, we have to be able to not just show up in community, but also acknowledge, stuff that we can do better, and also take part actively in the healing. And what does that mean? I think we can have even like big conversations about what it means for our relationships, because I think I'm a believer that, we shouldn't trash a relationship the minute that something happens. If that something is extremely abusive, extremely harmful, of course, we move on with our lives. We deserve softness. But I think that there's things that can be healed, and relationships that really can be supported in a way that things can be fixed.
Yes.
I believe that. I really, really believe that. And I try to embody that in my own personal relationships, in my own professional relationships, because things will never be perfect when humans are interacting with one another, especially with Black people with our history.
Yes.
It's we have to be able to talk about these things and make space for that. Now, Sam, there's this big thing about many people within our communities who don't want to go to therapy, who are not interested. I'm sure, like, with all the projects that you've been working on for Black Healing and with Black Healing Center, like, where do you think, like, that comes from in terms of the, like, I know in my family, I my own people, they say, like, they literally say, when you are hurt, when you are wounded emotionally, you just pray on it. Lots of that, you just pray it away, pray your pain away, pray your depression
go away. Boom.
Yes, you pray and it will go away. And I have seen the harm that has caused, to not recognize that, like, the same way that you break a leg, there's a treatment for that. There's a treatment if you're constantly feeling depressed, and I would love your 2 cents, regarding that reality that affects all communities, Black or not. But we're talking right now.
We Black people here. So
yes.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think I'm like, they have reason. There's, I think specifically for Black folks here in North America, Canada, whatever, the US, the history of how the industrial medical complex has treated Black people. I'm like, why the fuck would you ever want to go tell your business to these people? I'm like, so it makes sense in that capacity when you think about our history and the ways in which we've had to navigate the medical system and the way we've been treated. There's also the fact that for me, my family, I think, has been in survival mode since colonization. Like, they have been, every generation of my family has been in survival mode in trying to meet the basic needs of, like, I'm trying to put a roof over your head and I am working from sun up till sundown. I do not have time to actually think about how I'm feeling, about having time to go and see a therapist. I have not had this time. And so I think, I am like, it's such a privileged place to sit in, to have access to these services. And as I say, I was able to find a Black therapist through, like, huddles, like, 7 years ago. I can't imagine what it was like to be able to find a Black therapist like 10, 20, like 30 years ago. Like, they, like, what? Who let their children go to psychology school when, like, even the psychology, like, department itself has been so, there's, like, the history of it is not that great. And, like, Black folks being allowed to go through there, even now, there's maybe like 2 or 3 students who are Black students who are in that, like, department. And so I think there's just, like, a lot of things that have contributed to Black people not wanting to go to therapy. And I think that we're in a space, especially if we live in like here in the global north, we have opportunities that our parents, our grandparents did not have. And for me as well, like I have opportunities that my cousins who still live back home do not have. Like they don't go to therapy. I don't know how they would feel about going to therapy either, because they're also still in survival mode and trying to meet their basic needs. And so that's what I think about that.
Yeah, and I think that the question. Thank you for that, Sam. I think that the question of the fact that there's money attached to therapy, that's a big, it's a tension point.
It should be free. It's our heads. Like it's like this is shit that is like attached to our heads. Like this should be, when we talk about free healthcare, like mental health should be free. That is healthcare. I don't know how we talk about mental health without how we talk about like free healthcare in Canada without talking about like I don't know, something about our heads are like really not taken care of. Our teeth are not covered. Our mental health is not covered. Our eyes. I'm like, y'all, this is like without the head, we do not exist.
Yo, and I have to say something, because I have people that are in the US listening to this podcast, and they're thinking that, Black people in Canada, they have free healthcare. They lied.
Lies.
White people lied to you.
Lies.
We don't have free healthcare. It's not free. It is not free. You can drag your body to the emergency room. They will see you and say, yes, you are suffering. We are here for you. Here's a room. Sit there.
For 20 hours.
Basically, it is not free. And I care to say it because lots of people perceive Canada, unceded land, stolen land, as a place where there's free healthcare. Listen, if you want to go to the dentist here in Montreal, in Quebec, and you have to pay. Yes. You have to pay like thousands of dollars sometimes if it's like something that is very expensive.
Yeah,
it's
I'm getting
hundreds.
My wisdom teeth pulled out at the end of the month, and it's gonna be $1,000.
It's gonna hurt.
Yeah,
Sam, I just want to tell you.
I do know that. I'm preparing.
I'm here for you if you need care.
Thank
if you
you.
Need soup.
Look at that community care right there in action. Boom.
Right, but it does hurt though. I remember it's still in my mind when they did it to me. So I'm here with you.
Thank you.
I'm here. So yeah, I just wanted to specify that because really, I'm always like very excited when I see all of the people listening to the podcast, and I see the perception as well when it comes to people think that Black people in Canada are not exposed to racism. And I'm like, what? Like what? Like where? Like how?
Still the white people's cousins here. They still, they're still family. So they're going to act just like their families do.
They are trying us, people. It's just different here. It's just very, very different. But anti-Black racism is international. Like it's like it's everywhere. And so, yeah, I think what you said, Sam, about free therapy is something that should be implemented.
Yeah, and I also think about how I think you had commented on like a lot of like our elders saying, pray it away and go to church or go to a mosque or whatever faith looks like to you. And for a long time, I really resented that. I used to be like, how dare you, blah blah blah, all these like places. But I also, again, shout out to therapy, shout out to my therapist, thank you. Miracle workers right there. I've just gained so much empathy because I feel like church has been a place of community, especially for a lot of our immigrant parents. Like I think of my mom when I immigrated here. We didn't know nobody, but church was the place where we went, where she could speak her language, she could dance, she could eat, she could just be like whereas back home. It's like the only place that you get to actually be your full self was at these places of worship. So I understand that it was a place of safety in a country, in a like province that is very unsafe, especially if you live in like Alberta, which is where we were. And so for me, I'm like, yes, church. I think if that is for you, if that is something that brings you peace and you're not using it for harm, to harm others, do your thing, girl, because I think it's important for us to have places of faith, places that make us feel safe. And for a lot of our families, those places for a long time have been like the church, the mosque, all those places.
Yes. You said Delta? Delta is where?
Alberta,
Ooh.
Edmonton.
Ooh, for the people who don't know Alberta, it's like, for me, Alberta is like the Canadian Texas. It's like, it's like, I don't know. For people in Alberta, I'm sorry, there's Black people there. I really appreciate you.
Yes, there is.
We appreciate you. We're with you in solidarity, Alberta in the house, full time.
Yeah.
But for me, my perception, because I grew up in the 514, Montreal, Quebec, like Alberta has always been that place where I was like, Black people, please leave. Leave that place. Leave. But hey, Quebec is sci-fi. Oof. Quebec is like
a whole other level.
Let's not start.
Yeah.
Like, wow, yeah. Quebec. All the Black people living in Quebec should be catching additional checks, for
let's get them. You know how back home they'd be like, you have trees where you can go get money. We want those trees. Dear governments of Quebec, get them those trees, the tree money.
Right?
For Black people.
Right. We have a prime minister that every other month will say that systemic racism doesn't exist. It's like his mixtape. It's like it's his hip hop mixtape. He comes out once a month and says that.
Oh, and then the next thing, there's like Black folks that are being like discriminated against. And he's like, oh, it happens to everybody. That's what happens. And he's like, is it?
No.
Yeah.
No, but we hear, and Black Healing Center is here.
Oh, yeah.
Unceded land, Quebec. Black Healing Center is there, spreading love, spreading good vibes. I've seen it. And the thing, I have so much respect for people who create like Black organizations in the context of Quebec, because the hostility up in here, like the hostility is real. And I can say that like the mandate and the mission and the values of Black Healing Center, I at least the experience that I've had of the spaces, for me, is really what we need. Like, we really need more spaces like that, that are catering to Black people, no matter what's their gender, no matter, what's your story. I ended up in the spaces that you created, Sam, and I felt welcomed. I felt very welcome. And you're always eating right. Like wherever Sam is, you will eat right, right?
I really bond. A lot of my close friends, we've bonded over food. Yeah.
So anyways, all that to say, all of the spaces created by dear Sam, the food is always dope. That's one thing I noticed. Like if you come through, you will be eating right. You will be hydrated, eating right. Always beautiful people. Always.
Yeah, and it's also very generational. Like, I always say that I don't eat out a lot because my mom is one of the best cooks in the world. That I think she's like the best cook in the world. She cooks so well, and my grandma cooked really well. And so I think there's that kind of familial and cultural thing where there's like everything I went to, as well as a child in my communities, there was always delicious food. And so the things that I also curated, it makes sense that it's also going to be good food. And I also wanted to add that thank you so much for your kind words, that I love Montreal because as Black Healing Center, we're not doing the work we're doing in solos. Like, we're not doing it alone. There's other orgs that are doing amazing kind of similar work, like there's Black Mental Health Connections, or the Black Healing Fund, the Lavender Collective, Vicky's. So we're really surrounded by a lot of really dope, amazing Black folks that are also working towards making mental health more accessible for our communities.
Yes, there's a big squad of organizations in Quebec that are doing amazing work. What I wish for all these organizations is to get even more money to, the core money. As a Capricorn, I'm truly not afraid to talk about cash flow. And so at the end, all these people doing amazing things. What I want for these organizations is I want the bank account to be full.
Amen.
I don't want the restriction of money.
Abundance.
Yes.
At the Beyonce concert, she had this thing that said opulence, Beyonce, opulence. And so that is that's what I'm hearing.
Listen, if you're gonna bring up Beyonce every other minute, okay, fine, I accept. So just like Beyonce said, opulence, opulence. we want the bank account full for these organizations, because I cannot stress enough, because I've done community work, because we've been doing that work together collectively, that these organizations, like, they bring wellness within our communities. Like, we talked about the health system, we talked about so many different things, but the nonprofit world, to be really honest, as we've been in this, it's injecting like lots of wellness within our communities, but
doing the work that the government should be doing, because it should be free.
99, free 99. It should be. So I think that, all these organizations that Sam just named, and Black Healing Center, they should not have money as a stressor and as a barrier to deliver what they deliver, because honestly, you've been constant. Like, Black Healing Center has been annually constant when it comes to creating the spaces, when it comes to creating media content that influences Black people, and has, media. Like, I'm big on media, obviously, but that really helps us shift the way we see things sometimes. Even as a person that worked on, mental health projects, every time I'm exposed to new content, organizations that are delivering projects, it's an opportunity to see things differently when it comes to mental health. And so organizations like yours, for example, Sam, I think that the work that you're doing is really like you're, how can I say that in English? You're bringing new perspectives every year, because everything I know about mental health, it's like it has to be renewed every year, because there's research, right? And in the beginning, when you were talking about the work that you were also doing with research, linked to research. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
We work a lot with Concordia University since we started, and especially we work with Dr. Lisa Ndejuru, who has been such a pivotal part of the work we're doing together. She has been, and she's been doing, like, she's not new to this. She's been like a psychologist, community organizer here in Montreal for years, and I think she's, like, we're standing on her shoulders,
Yeah, Dr. Lisa Ndejuru is, to me, like, here in Quebec, like, she's, to me, the example of how you make research useful to Black communities. Because, as you said, research and academia and university, it can really truly be a place up there that's completely disconnected from the communities. And Dr. Ndejuru, for me, that is very critical about, how universities engage with communities. She has been, for me, the embodiment of ethics and meaning, bringing research to the masses, bringing knowledge to Black people. And she has been doing this back and forth, research communities, and never disconnecting, as she, has a PhD, is a full-blown doctor, and is practicing and is doing research. Like, it you have to be very intentional to not be disconnected and also be a scholar. And so I'm very proud to know her.
Yes.
Very, very, very proud to know her. Sam, we're reaching the end of this beautiful episode where you mentioned Beyonce many times, and I was expecting that. Like, I knew you would come with that energy, especially after that concert.
Yes. Yeah.
I knew. And it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
If you know me, you know. Yeah.
And Sam, truly, like, let's end this episode with gratefulness and understanding of, this work is demanding. Like, we're not gonna, like, make it only shiny. It's fun to do. I think community work is fun to do, but it's also very demanding work. And so I want to thank you, Sam, because this work is not always, fun. Sometimes it's hard, and so thank you truly, because at the end of the day, I really believe that the work that you're doing is care. Like it's care on our communities, and it's self-care for you, because you know, at the beginning of this conversation you said that you're doing it for you. It's bringing you joy as well to do it, but you I think you also need to hear from your communities that you know, we're grateful. I'm grateful for that work. I've seen that work, you know, throughout the years, and I'm very, very grateful that you're doing that work with your team, and just beautiful people, beautiful vibes. And the last question I have for you is, like, as you're thinking of Black communities and, you know, you're doing that work, what are you wishing for? You know, what are you wishing for if we're seeing Black people in the future, you know, what are you wishing for when it comes to wellness and the way, you know, we're going to move together, we're going to still move together, because Black people, no matter the circumstances, funded, not funded, Black people will move, you know, but that money, white people, if you're listening to this, please, okay? Please. Now, back to the point. You know, what are you wishing for? What do you want for Black Healing Center? What do you want for our communities? Like, what is it looking like?
A few things. And yeah, just also before I say this, I do want to say that I would not have been able to do this. I've been like the founder, but I would not have been able to do this without like the folks that I work with, especially like Katia Estelle, who has been like who's the co-founder and our creative director, who's amazing. We're also currently working with like Martha Nduwayo, who helps us with like operational things. Also, like we have a few interns, Akinyi, Brooklyn, and Scott, and also like our board of directors. I'm just here saying the people because I'm not doing this alone. Danny, there's Kristen, there's Kofi, there's Kemba. So all these humans have like played a pivotal role in BHC, and I'm not doing this alone.
Never implied that, but you still created the thing.
We did the thing.
Yes.
We're driving, but I'm not driving alone.
Yes, of course.
Yes,
of
yeah.
Course.
Like every kid, it takes a village.
Yes. And so you have Kristen on your team.
Yo.
Like, Kristen? Oh, if you don't know Kristen, you don't know life. But it's okay. Go ahead.
If you have a Virgo in your life, go get you some Virgos. What was I going to say? Yes, the future that I'm imagining for Black wellness, for Black folks. I just want us to, well, first of all, free mental health care, making sure that people who are providing that care are also compensated well, that are living their best life, shaking their asses on a yacht. I want us to have rest, to have abundance in whatever capacity that looks for us. For me specifically, I want to have my hands somewhere in the soil. I want to have water beside me. I want to feel restful and connected to this land that I do live on. And I want to be able to access wellness easily, and also like wellness that's inclusive of all different folks in this world. Yeah, that's what I'm imagining.
Well, thank you, Sam. Thank you so much. This is very close to the end of this episode. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I could say more about Sam, about Black healing, but you know, this episode has to come to an end. And really, it was great to have you on. Really, truly. I think I will be listening myself to this episode a few times to remind me of the things. The beautifulness of Beyonce, of course.
Yes. Beyonce.
Of course. What I want to say is thank you, Sam. And also, what you'll be noticing with Ayeeyo Podcast is that more and more I will be bringing guests to the platform, and we are doing a big shift. I know people asked for it, and Ayeeyo Podcast so far has been audio content. strictly audio content. But moving forward, you will get the video that you asked for. My people, I know you asked. I just want you to know that video content equals money. It equals money. It's more money. It's more work. But I understand the need. I understand that video is also more accessible, as we care for people who have disabilities of all sorts. And so I'm coming, be patient with my Black self. I'm coming. I promise. I'm doing my best, and I'm coming. And so the next episodes, you'll see, I'm coming on YouTube. All of this stuff. I want to really be transparent regarding my intentions. This content that we create together, I will never have Black people pay to have access to this content. I will wire the mobilization, the funding around Ayeeyo Podcast in order for it to always be free for Black people. And so there's ways to fund a media platform in a way that it stays accessible to Black people. And I will be working in that way all the time, always, all the time, because Ayeeyo Podcast was created to introduce beautiful people to the listeners, to the people who appreciate the podcast. And it was also created for and with Black people. And so it only makes sense that it stays accessible, fully free 99, accessible to Black people. So thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. This was a delicious episode. And listen, all I can say is, Sam, do you want to have the last words?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so proud of you for this. I heard you talking about this podcast for a while, and I'm so proud of you for doing it. And it's almost a year, so happy anniversary!
Soon. And we'll be. I'm trying to think about something special, like maybe in-person gathering. I think that people would care for that, to bring all of the guests. Because I have a few people that Sam, you'll be invited, of course. if you're in town, because we know you travel. So thank you everyone, and I guess I'll see you next episode.
Yes.
Take care.
Bye, Black people.
Bye, Black people. Bye.